In the worlds of rock and blues boogie, few figures are as instantly recognizable or as mysterious as Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top. From his Texas roots and his early bands to the legendary moment he picked up his 1959 Gibson Les Paul, better known as Pearly Gates, Gibbons has built a career wrapped in music, myth, and more than a little magic. This video takes you inside the early days of Billy's life, the formation of ZZ Top, and the unforgettable story of his late bandmate Dusty Hill. But more than just history, it's a journey through the tall tales, some wild legends, and iconic moments that made Billy Gibbons the legend he is today. With no disrespect meant to Dusty, Frank, or Elwood, I would have to say, without Billy, there is no ZZ Top. Billy Gibbons is unquestionably one of the finest rock and blues guitarists to ever come out of the great state of Texas. His birthday is said to be December 16, 1950, or possibly March 4th. And some sources say he was born in 1949. I've also read he's the youngest member of the band. His actual birth date has about as many answers as how the name ZZ Top was conceived. You could ask Billy, Dusty, or Frank how they came up with the name, and they would sit side by side and give you 3 different answers, and then just smile. One thing I'm pretty sure of that Billy has said on numerous occasions is that he was raised around the Houston area, and as many guitarists before him, after seeing and hearing Elvis Presley, that got him hooked on rock and roll. He started getting into blues too, listening to Jimmy Reed. In December of 1962, Santa Claus brought Billy a Gibson Melody Maker and a Fender Champ amp, and for Billy, there was no looking back after that. He soon formed his first band called the Saints, and a bit later on he joined up with a group called the Coachmen, who had a more psychedelic sound to their music. This was the band who changed their name to what I consider a great band name, the Moving Sidewalks. They put out an album in 1968 called Flash, and it was around that time that Jimi Hendrix toured with the Moving Sidewalks, and he started telling everyone that Billy was his favorite new guitar player. The Moving Sidewalks disbanded in 1969, and Billy decided he wanted to go more to a boogie blues-based rock sound. After jamming with drummer Frank Beard, who knew a bass player named Dusty Hill, the 3 got together and jammed out a boogie blues in C, and the rest is history. Now, in the early years, Billy moved on from the Melody Maker, giving it away to one of his neighbors, and started playing a few Fender guitars. In 1968, Gibbons bought himself a 1959 Gibson Les Paul Standard. He bought it from a farmer who lived around Houston for $250. He named the guitar the Pearly Gates. It would take a whole video in itself just to tell about Billy's guitar collection, so in this one here, we're just going to talk a little about that 1959 Les Paul, which has been his go-to guitar since he bought it. There are many stories out there of how Billy purchased it. Even Billy himself has a few. But I'm sure through the years a few details get lost or twisted. So this winter, while reading an article on Billy and his equipment, I came across a story put together by Christopher Scheibel for Guitar Lobby, and I think he has put it together just about as close as one can get. Every player has that one special guitar that sounds better than all the rest. For Billy Gibbons, that guitar is none other than his iconic 1959 Les Paul Standard that has become known as Pearly Gates. Back in the late 1960s, Gibbons was listening to other blues players like Eric Clapton, who at the time was playing a Sunburst Gibson Les Paul. He just couldn't get over how cool he looked and how great he sounded with that model, so Gibbons just had to get one of his own. With this in mind, one fateful day, a friend of Gibbons told him that there was a rancher just outside of town that had the exact guitar he was looking for. The rancher used to play in a band but had since turned his attention toward wrangling cattle. Rumor has it that his '59 Gibson was just sitting in the house and might be available for purchase. A few years prior, Gibbons lent a car to another friend who was an aspiring actress. She needed to get from Houston to Hollywood for a screen test, so Gibbons lent her his old 1939 Packard. They didn't think the car would make it past El Paso, but she made it all the way to California and even got the job. They figured the car must have had a divine connections, so they named it Pearly Gates. When the actress got the job, she sold the car and sent Gibbons the $250 as payment. The day he got the money in the mail, he headed out to the rancher's house to see if he could pick up his dream guitar. Once the rancher pulled out the instrument, Gibbons gave him the $250 in his pocket. Since the car's luck must have rubbed off on Gibbons to allow such a deal, he named the guitar Pearly Gates in its memory. When he got the six-string, Pearly Gates still had the original flat-wound strings from the Gibson factory on it, and a set of black diamond flat wounds in the case. It also had a love note from the original owner's girlfriend that said, "I like what you do. Meet me later. You might like what I can do." Some might argue that the note sounds like it could have been written by the guitar for Gibbons. Perhaps it's just another instance of those divine connections. Pearly Gates instantly became Gibbons' primary player and has been ever since. It has played a leading role in every ZZ Top album and has made countless stage appearances. Over the years, it's earned its fair share of bumps and bruises, including some serious thrash rash, as Gibbons calls it, on the back from where his belt buckle rubs against it. Despite the years of use, Pearly Gates is 100% stock. Even the frets are original. And for a guy like Billy Gibbons who loves custom equipment, he would never alter his most prized possession. She's perfect the way she is. So there we have it. I have heard Billy has been offered up to $5 million for that guitar, but it pretty much stays at home now, only being played there and in the studio. He has played it on every ZZ Top album recorded. The band recorded 5 albums from 1971 to 1976. These were all on the London label. Then after their tour in 1977, they took some time off and Billy headed to Europe. Someone said to Billy, "I understand you went off on a music pilgrimage for 4 years. It was really more like 2 years, but anyhow, Billy's answer was, "Some exotic excursions through Europe and points beyond that led us toward a most appealing surge of off-the-wall sonic sounds that really expanded the appreciation of a wide range of tones and compositions, which lent opening up to thinking and performing way outside the former box. We as a band regathered with a newfound approach to the enjoyable manner of making a fave-rave expression of interpreting the great American art form, the blues." Now that's a Billy answer if I ever heard one. Either way, once they got back together, Billy and Dusty had both grown their beards down their chest. And my guess would be they worked on some new songs, which was to become the DeGueo album. And with their record deal running out with London Records, they signed a new deal with Warner Brothers. The DeGueo album went platinum, even though it only got to number 24 on the Billboard charts. Billy worked up a great version of the old classic song "I Thank You," and one they had written called "Cheap Sunglasses." Both were very popular singles for the group, and to me this album still sounded like the ZZ Top of old, and Billy's playing was sounding as good as ever. But things were to change a little, and these small changes wound up having big results. First, they started adding a few little choreographed moves on stage, along with the chest-length beards and dark sunglasses. And to their music, they added some synthesizer sounds. On the next album, El Loco, which Billy said was the turning point of the band's career, the sound and the looks on stage tweaked. They were ready for MTV and a ride to the top. And with the release of the Eliminator album, to the top they went. The album sold over 10 million copies. Even with this new sound, I think Billy did a pretty good job of keeping his guitar work sounding good. He kept using the Pearly Gates Les Paul to record with, but on songs like Sharp Dressed Man, there was a few guitar tracks going on, and his slide work sounds very much like he did it on a Fender. But the mix is great and very sellable. Yeah, Eliminator and the videos changed everything for them. And to be honest, I enjoyed the new ZZ Top sound and look. Although I'm still very fond of the old school sound that started them off. I don't believe this was a total sellout. Billy knew if they were to keep up, changes had to be made. And he did so along with Frank and Dusty. A whole new generation of ZZ Top fans was also added, and this is a major part of their longevity and success. To me, Billy is one of the best at his trade. His vocals and guitar playing have adapted to keep ZZ Top playing to big audiences for over 50 years. To do that, change has to happen. Even today, you go and hear a ZZ Top show, it seems Billy effortlessly handles all of the guitar parts on stage without too many tricks. He just gets up there and plays and sings and keeps the fans entertained. With the loss of Dusty, many thought it could have been the end of the trail for ZZ Top. But to keep Dusty's wishes, Billy, Dusty, and Frank talked before Dusty left and decided the show must go on. Thankfully, they decided to recruit their longtime guitar tech, Elwood Ftancis, to step up. He has been listening to their shows from side stage for more years than we have fingers and toes. Billy said it took only a few coffee table rehearsals and they got on stage and kept the ZZ Top machine moving on down the road. Like I said at the start of this video, with no disrespect at all meant to Dusty, Frank, or even Elwood, but when the Reverend Willie G decides to hang it up, it's all over in my book. This hombre's guitar and voice is ZZ Top. There won't be anyone else who can fill his shoes.